Dear students, teachers, and parents, my name is Alexandra. Welcome to my lesson. In this episode, I would like to share some of my principles that I try to follow when I work with beginner students, especially students of a very gentle age, 4 and 5-year-olds. The very first principle that I always try to follow is to create a very friendly atmosphere on a lesson, especially if it's a first lesson. And honestly, for the kids any age, but especially if it's a beginner, because when they come to class and it's something totally new for them, totally new journey, a new teacher, it is very important to show them that you like them and you're happy to see them, and you kind of play in this role of very friendly and inviting host. If they don't feel that kind of positive energy from you, they might not want to open up. You can always ask them some questions: how they doing, what's going on with their life. If you feel that they're not ready to talk to you that much, it's okay. Still do your part. You can share a little bit about your day, and you can just tell them something. You can tell a joke if something comes to mind. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do, but the first important principle is that we cannot really start our lesson until this friendly and warm atmosphere is established. What to do if the kid is actually very talkative, because I have a lot of children like this too. So it's important not to just turn the lesson into conversation, and at some point we have to start doing something musical. So I found this very helpful tool that I use sometimes with the talkative children who just want to talk and talk and talk. So, for example, when we have this first conversation on a lesson, I ask them, how was your day at school today? Was it like this? Right? Something like this. Or it was like this. Something major. So, and this is how I just sit at the piano and they say, oh, it was like this or like that. And then, I ask a couple of more questions, and if they share of the event, if they got scared or whatever. So you can just be creative and play whatever you want, just kind of improvising here and there. But you implement the musical elements into your first conversation when you just meet, before you actually start a regular lesson, which could be pretty helpful. One of the most important things about starting the musical journey to connect the young student with a great music from the very first lesson. So this is something that I do. I don't wait until they're a little bit older to introduce them to a great composers. I actually do it from lesson 1. I start talking about friends. For example, I just ask them about their friends, if they have best friends, or if you have a group of friends, they tell me their names and so forth. And I'll say, in music you will also have a lot of friends. They just can be a little bit different, but they're going to become your close friends. These friends are composers. And the very first friend that I will introduce to you today will be Johann Sebastian Bach, right? So I always start with Bach, of course, and then on the second lesson I introduce Mozart, Beethoven, and then Chopin, Tchaikovsky. So this is my top 5 favorite musical friends to introduce to young children. And the introduction is always going kind of the same way. So I'll show them a picture of the composer, for example, from a kid's book. I can also show them something that is looking a little bit more real, something like this, for example, picture of Bach. And I'll tell them some stories about Johann Sebastian, and of course it's always some funny stories, but it's not going to be just the storytelling. So I try to do jump into something practical. For example, just give you a very quick example. I of course tell the students how many kids Bach had, and they always have their eyes open like this, and I say, oh, he was always very busy, and because the family was always growing, he moved a lot from house to house, trying to find a bigger house. And so he found this new house with lots of rooms, but he needed to have a lot of tables, right? So for his office, for the living room, and so forth. And then we take a piece of paper, just like this, and I separate it into 3 columns, right? 1, 2, 3, and then I write circle, square, circle, square, circle, square. And then I play 3 musical examples, of course written by Bach. And then I ask them, what do you think? Does it sound like a round table that he picked for his living room, or it sounds like a square table? And if it sounds like a round table, they would have to shade the round. And then example number 2, round or square, they will have to shade the particular table. And I always play, you know, mostly something from Anna Magdalena, for example. Obviously it's round. For the square, something that is more edgy, and again for the round. So they always like to play this game, and I enjoy it too. And again, it's a little bit of introduction for them to great music and to great composers. And we do the similar kind of activities with the rest of the composers. So this is a very important principle for me, is to connect them to the great music. And we always listen, so it's not just me playing, but we always listen to a piece or 2 by Bach, even the little fragment, and then I give them homework to finish listening to it. After this kind of activity comes next principle that is very important, especially for the first steps in music. It's the principle of success. Try not to give the students overly complicated tasks. For example, if you know that it will be maybe difficult for him to answer or to do something that you ask correctly, try to find something that is easier. So from the very first steps, it's important that the student is doing practically every single task successfully. So it's not that hard. And it actually will build up, you know, his self-esteem a little bit, right, as a pianist already. And it will be just, it will create a nice positive foundation, and inside of the student he will say, okay, I can do this, okay, this is not hard, it's actually fun, I like it, you see, I'm doing everything correctly. And constantly, you know, compliment him or her for doing a great job, so they actually feel proud of themselves. It's very important, especially in the beginning. Another important thing is to just give them a little bit more idea of historical background of the piano, right, as an instrument. I think it's very important to actually let them fall in love with this instrument. Of course, it's nice to listen to the orchestral music, and you probably will ask them to, but keep in mind that you actually want them to fall in love with this instrument, with the, you know, black and white keys, with the way it sounds. I always open up the lead, if I teach on the grand piano, to show them what's going on, and during that time they look in, maybe the parents just, you know, pick them up and they can see what's inside, talk about the strings and hammers and how the sound comes to life. And when I play, I always tell them, look, they're dancing. So every time you play the piano, the kids will be happy, you can have lots of fun and dancing. And, you know, constantly try to stimulate that love for especially the piano. And I always show them, you know, these kind of pictures of pianos, grandparents, harpsichords, clavichords. We talk about it. They always pick the favorite one. Maybe I'll give them a little thing to color certain instruments and so forth. And the last principle that I would like to share, again, with the work with a beginning student, we try to start them on with the right hand motions. Of course, the concept of hand position we have to gently introduce from the lesson number 1, right? So when they start playing like this, you just, you know, gently take the hand and try to, whatever your imagination tells you. You probably have to have several associations with it, because the hand position topic is, you know, going to be with us for a very long time. You know, this can be a house, so you can imagine an apple. If you have a little bowl that the student can put inside the hand, is great. So this is very important. A lot of times what I love to do is to grab a pencil, somebody chewed the eraser, sorry, and just say, first we draw a horseshoe actually, and we discuss why the horses need horseshoe to protect their feet and so forth. So, and then I always say, this is a magic pen, so I'm going to put a horseshoe on every single finger, right, on the fingertip. And then when you play the piano, you also place your hand on a horseshoe. So this actually works like magic, and I just do this every lesson, sometimes 2-3 times during the lesson, and they actually get used to it. Oh, this is the right way to play. So don't be afraid to actually introduce the subject of the correct hand position from day one. It's very important. It's better to do it early than to struggle later on. And since they are not playing anything yet, and the first period, for maybe 2, 3, 4 lessons, depending on the student, depending on the age, we just stay away completely from the notation, right? It's maybe a little too early to introduce, but it's not too early to introduce the correct hand motions. So sometimes I just tell them, we do different kinds of exercises. We paint the walls, imaginary walls, of course. We fly like butterflies, whatever your imagination tells you. I can record a separate video on that. And then, I have either a little bag or a little box of notes. And when they pick something, for example, it's a quarter note, we teach them right away that there are short notes and there are long notes. So there's like the most important general principle. For short notes, we let them fly, right? So just fly away, right? Play any note on the piano, fly. But for long notes, we keep them alive, right? So we use our elbow in order to prolong the sound. We keep them alive. And then you can just play almost various games with these two principles. But this is very important. Also try to do this as early as possible. I hope that this was helpful, and if you would like me to expand on any topic, please let me know. I will be very happy to do so. And it's important for also the teacher to enjoy those first steps in music with the students, and really it's a magical time, and it's important to just be there, truly become musical friends, I think, with your students, to ensure a future success. Thank you again for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.